Hey everyone, it's me, Brock C, and welcome back to I Heart Movies. Marvel has been holding a dark secret within one of the MCU's biggest movies. One of the darkest parts of Marvel's history lies within this one movie, and that movie is Avengers: Age of Ultron. This was the second Avengers film in the MCU. Avengers: Age of Ultron is a 2015 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics superhero team The Avengers. Produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. It is the sequel to The Avengers and the 11th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Written and directed by Joss Whedon. The film features an ensemble cast including Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Don Cheadle, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Kobe Smulders, Anthony Mackie, Haley Atwell, Idris Elba, Stellan Skarsgård, James Spader, and Samuel L. Jackson. In the film, the Avengers fight Ultron, an artificial intelligence obsessed with causing human extinction. The sequel was announced in May 2012 after the successful release of The Avengers, with Whedon set to return as writer and director in August. Whedon updated Ultron's origin for the film to involve the MCU's Avengers team, and introduced the characters Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, to whom Marvel shared the rights with 20th Century Fox. Casting began in June 2013 with the re-signing of Downey. Second unit filming began in February 2014 in South Africa, with principal photography taking place between March and August, primarily at Shepperton Studios in Surrey, England. Additional footage was filmed in Italy, South Korea, Bangladesh, New York State, and around England, with an estimated net production budget of $365 million. The film is the second most expensive film ever made. Avengers: Age of Ultron premiered in Los Angeles on April 13, 2015, and was released in the United States on May 1, 2015, as part of Phase 2 of the MCU. The film received generally positive reviews from critics and grossed over $1.4 billion worldwide, becoming the fourth highest grossing film of 2015 and the fifth highest grossing film of all time. Two sequels have been released: Avengers: Infinity War and Avengers: Endgame. Ultron was set to be the scariest villain yet. What a creepo. My favorite character so far in the MCU is the Captain America, and he is so crazy, but I don't know I wasn't as thrilled to see my favorite guy in this movie. To really understand the history of this movie, we need to go back a few years. In the Eastern European country of Sokovia, the Avengers: Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Thor, Bruce Banner, Natasha Romanoff, and Clint Barton raid a Hydra facility commanded by Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, who has experimented on humans using the scepter previously wielded by Loki. They meet two of Strucker's test subjects, twins Pietro and Wanda Maximoff, and apprehend Strucker, while Stark retrieves Loki's scepter. Stark and Banner discover an artificial intelligence within the scepter's gem, and secretly decide to use it to complete Stark's Ultron global defense program. The unexpectedly sentient Ultron, believing he must eradicate humanity to save Earth, eliminates Stark's AI, Jarvis, and attacks the Avengers at their headquarters. Escaping with the scepter, Ultron uses the resources in Strucker's Sokovia base to upgrade his rudimentary body and build an army of robot drones. Having killed Strucker, he recruits the Maximoffs, who hold Stark responsible for their parents' deaths by his company's weapons, and goes to the base of arms dealer Ulysses Claw in Johannesburg to get vibranium. The Avengers attack Ultron and the Maximoffs, but Wanda subdues them with haunting visions, causing Banner to turn into the Hulk and rampage until Stark stops him with his anti-Hulk armor. A worldwide backlash over the resulting destruction, and the fears Wanda's hallucinations incited, send the team into hiding at Barton's farmhouse. Thor departs to consult with Dr. Eric Selvig on the apocalyptic future he saw in his hallucination, while Nick Fury arrives and encourages the team to form a plan to stop Ultron. And so, Ultron uses Loki's scepter to enslave the team's friend Helen Cho. They use her synthetic tissue technology, vibranium, and the scepter's gem to craft a new body. As Ultron uploads himself into the body, Wanda is able to read his mind, discovering his plan for human extinction. The Maximoffs turn against Ultron. Rogers, Romanoff, and Barton fight Ultron and retrieve the synthetic body, but Ultron captures Romanoff. The Avengers fight among themselves when Stark and Banner secretly upload Jarvis, who is still working after hiding from Ultron inside the internet, into the synthetic body. Thor returns to help activate the body, based on his vision that the gem on its brow is the Mind Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones, the most powerful objects in existence. This vision earns their trust by being worthy of lifting Thor's hammer and Mjolnir. Vision and the Maximoffs go with the Avengers to Sokovia, where Ultron has used the remaining vibranium to build a machine to lift a large part of the capital city skyward, intending to crash it into the ground to cause global extinction. Banner rescues Romanoff, who awakens the Hulk for the battle. The Avengers fight Ultron's army while Fury arrives in a helicarrier with Maria Hill, James Rhodes, and SHIELD agents to evacuate civilians. Pietro dies when he shields Barton from gunfire, and a vengeful Wanda abandons her post to destroy Ultron's primary body, which allows one of his drones to activate the machine. The city plummets, but Stark and Thor overload the machine and shatter the landmass. In the aftermath, the Hulk, unwilling to endanger Romanoff by being with her, departs in a Quinjet, while Vision confronts and destroys Ultron's last remaining body. Later, with the Avengers having established a new base run by Fury, Hill, Cho, and Selvig, Thor returns to Asgard to learn more about the forces he suspects have manipulated major events. As Stark leaves and Barton retires, Rogers and Romanoff prepare to train new Avengers: Rhodes, Vision, Sam Wilson, and Wanda. The devastated Fellowship reaches Lothlorien, ruled by the Elf Queen Galadriel, who privately informs Sam Wilson and Wanda. In October 2011, Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios, said the studio was beginning to look at their Phase 2 films, which would start with Iron Man 3 and would culminate in a second Avengers film. In March 2012, Joss Whedon, director of the first film, stated that he would want a sequel to be more small, personal, and painful, that does not just a rehash of what seemed to work the first time, and a theme having full of originality to itself. Despite the production of the film becoming increasingly wider in scope, Feige maintained that this was not their intention, always looking to see where the team wanted to take the characters, over how to make it bigger than the Avengers. Some events from the book are condensed or omitted at the beginning of the film. The ring is lost in a river for 2,500 years until it is found by Down into the Darkness with him, the devastated fellow. At the premiere of the Avengers, Feige said the studio had an option for Whedon to return as director. In May 2012, after the successful release of the first film, Disney CEO Bob Iger announced a sequel was in development. Most of the film's cast members were under contract to potentially appear in the sequel. However, Robert Downey Jr. was not, as his 4-picture deal with Marvel expired after Iron Man 3. At the 2012 San Diego Comic-Con International, Whedon said he was undecided about directing. However, in August 2012, Iger announced that Whedon would return to write and direct the sequel and develop the Marvel television series, Agents of SHIELD for ABC. Later in the month, Disney set a May 1st, 2015 release date. Whedon said his return for a sequel wasn't a tough decision. He thought it was not going to happen, but realized he desperately wanted to say more about these characters when he started considering it. Whedon said that they intended for the film's production to not be as rushed as the first one. By April 2013, filming was scheduled to begin in early 2014 at Shepperton Studios in England. At the Hollywood premiere of Iron Man 3, Whedon said that he had completed a draft of the script, started the storyboard process, and met with actors. Whedon also mentioned that he wrote with Downey in mind and included a brother, sister act from the comic books, later confirming that he was referring to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Whedon explained his rationale for including the characters in the film that their powers are very visually interesting, with problems which went on in on the first one for strong powers. Those powers are super speed and spells and telekinesis, respectively, which they can do that will help sort of keep it fresh, though cautioned he was not throwing in more characters for the sake of doing that. Whedon stated that the twins allowed him to add more conflict, which do not like the United States and the Avengers. And the Avengers are like a world power, and not everybody's on board with the Avengers coming in and starting fights, even in the name of justice, because Marvel Studios shared the film rights to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch with 20th Century Fox and had to avoid conflict with Fox's X-Men films. Whedon introduced 2 important characters into the Marvel Cinematic Universe completely on his terms for the first time, which allowed him to connect their origin stories to the universe that they created and avoid the concept of mutants. Whedon relished at the storytelling opportunities by introducing a character with telepathic powers, explaining, "It meant we could spend a little time inside the Avengers' heads, either their past or their impressions of what's going on, or their fears, or all of the above." Downey had entered negotiations to extend his contract with Marvel Studios and reprise his role as Iron Man in the film. A month later, Downey signed on to return for the then entitled Avengers sequel, as well as a third Avengers film. At the 2013 San Diego Comic-Con International, Whedon announced the film would be subtitled Age of Ultron. Despite the subtitle, the film is not based on the 2013 comic book miniseries Age of Ultron. Phage explained that they simply liked the title Age of Ultron, but the plot was taken from decades of Avengers story arcs. Whedon added that Ultron's origin would differ from his comics roots, and that Hank Pym would not be involved with Ultron's creation. Whedon disclosed that Edgar Wright had rights to the character first through his inclusion in Ant-Man, which was already in development. He also thought that Ultron needed to be conceived through the Avengers, and since they already had Tony Stark and Bruce Banner on the team, it would not make sense to bring in a third scientist. Whedon also said the film would have a darker tone due to Ultron's involvement. So, now you know, the dark secrets that Ultron held within Avengers. Age of Ultron. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I am Brock C and you are watching I Heart Movies. I love you all so much that you for make Mirror Brothers Productions a household name.